Discover over 100 episodes of Bartholomewtown on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Bartholomewtown Podcast.
Every journalist has that one thing that they're really good at. I think my good thing is connecting with people. You know, I'll say to my interns who are young women, you're going to have to face, sexual comments that you're not going to want online. You're going to deal with critiques on your body. You're going to deal with critiques on your makeup. I like the fact that we wanted it, and I think we achieved it. We have a unique look. I don't want anybody to look at our show and say they're trying to be the Road Show, because we're not.
Welcome in to another edition of the Bartholomewtown Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bartholomew. On today's episode, I sit down with NBC10 personality, Lindsay Iadeluca. And I must say, I had an outstanding time sitting down with Lindsay here at the Loft, going over her journey in broadcasting, her backstory. A native Rhode Islander, her broadcast career actually began in the second smallest market in the country, and now, of course, today, she's a big-time, rising television star here in southern New England, one aspect of which includes co-hosting Studio 10, a new lifestyle show that WJAR Channel 10 launched just a few weeks ago. So we break all of that down, including Lindsay's experiences working as a woman in media, both in terms of dealing with the inside of the broadcast industry and also interacting with the community/audience. So we got to a whole heck of a lot here on this episode. It was a gorgeous, rainy September morning, great vibes. Stick around in just a matter of moments. My conversation with Lindsay Iadeluca. All right, folks, we are well past back to school, Labor Day weekend, that whole deal here in southern New England. Breaking out the sweatshirts, you know the drill. Now, there's still plenty of time for some summer activities, don't get me wrong. But if you're like me, you're probably starting to think about, maybe even get excited about autumn. And when I think about autumn, one of the things that jumps out is the Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular presented by Citizens Bank. And it's back this year, October 3rd through November 3rd at Roger Williams Park Zoo. Now, what can you expect from this year's Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular? This year, guests will travel through a seasonal wonderland and celebrate the joys of New England. Visitors will feast their senses on autumn's beauty, winter's swirling snow, spring's first blossoms, and summer's ocean breezes. Summer, where we are right now, you better get out there and enjoy it. A few weeks left, because then right after it, it's autumn. And when I think of autumn, what do I think of? The Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular. Come check out thousands of intricately carved pumpkins, all displayed along the zoo's beautiful wetlands trail, complete with music and special effects. It's the 2019 Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular presented by Citizens Bank, October 3rd through November 3rd at Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence. And a great way that you can support the Bartholomewtown Podcast is to subscribe, rate, and review on your preferred podcast app. And if you enjoy an episode, why not share it on social media? Okay, without further ado, my conversation with NBC10's Lindsay Iadeluca. All right, we are here on a kind of beautiful rainy morning.
Beautiful.
It feels good. I don't know.
I like it sometimes.
Yeah, it's...
Relaxes you.
It does, and it's like, I have this whole thing where I feel like, of course the academic calendar matters.
Yes.
And going back to school and Labor Day and that whole process. Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand you got to push pumpkins and things like that, like from a retail perspective ahead of time and all that. But man, it's still summer, right?
It is. It feels like summer. It's humid today.
It's humid. It feels like a summer rain.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
it does. Definitely does.
Lindsay Iadeluca, NBC10, and now of Studio 10, the new
Yes.
program that launched just like a week ago.
Just a week ago.
Yep.
Yeah, very excited about it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, real pleasure. So before we get into all the projects you're into right now, which are really exciting, just kind of your backstory. What's been your pathway to Channel 10 here?
So my pathway, I was Rhode Island born and bred. I grew up in Warwick, went to Tollgate High School. I'm a URI grad too. I went for journalism and communications. And I was really lucky when I was in college. I got to intern for Channel 10. So that taught me a lot. And then I actually did a 4-month summer semester in DC where I worked for the NBC station there. And I learned a lot there too.
That's interesting. And what kind of... is that like DC, Northern Virginia, like hyper focused on like that metro area that the network you're looking at working at?
The DC market is huge. It's spread out. It's one of the top 10 markets in the country, so it's really interesting. I mean, they spread from Maryland to Virginia, it's huge.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. There was a lot of interesting stuff there. Of course, a lot of politics and things like that. So it was very interesting to learn from those reporters as well. From there, when I graduated, 10 days after I graduated, I moved to Michigan. It's a really small town called Alpena. It's probably like 9 square miles. It's super, super tiny. But
it's like 9 times the size of Central Falls.
Yeah,
but nonetheless.
It's really, really tiny. But you got to start somewhere. It's actually the second smallest market in the country.
So when people say like you got to start in Walla Walla, you even beat that notion.
Yeah, literally. Like there are 210 markets. Alpena was 209. Yeah, so I literally started from the bottom.
What did that feel like? When you first showed up there, did you feel like, all right, now I have this opportunity to do something because I kind of have a blank canvas or something of that nature? I don't know.
I think it's an interesting thing to think about because when you're in school, they prepare you on how to shoot video and how to write a story and everything. But, for me, I was a Rhode Islander. I went to school in Rhode Island. Like, they don't train you to get dropped off in the middle of a place where there's really nothing. Like, we didn't even have Dunkin' Donuts. We didn't have Starbucks. There was like one town coffee shop. And they're like, here you go, make friends, report news. And I'm like, what news? What to do?
Right.
What are we doing? So the stuff that qualified as news there certainly is vastly different from news here.
Sure.
But in hindsight, I'm very thankful for that experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sure. And then at what point did you start to move up the market ranks, if you will?
So I was there for a year, and then I was lucky I got a job in Springfield, Massachusetts, which brought me obviously much closer to home because my goal was to always get back home. So I was always trying to move east. So I worked for Western Mass News in Springfield for 3 years, and I met some of my best friends there, and it was a great, great time. I call it like the hat trick of shifts because I started on night side and then I moved to mornings, or I moved to day side, and then I moved to mornings. So I did it all, but I liked it a lot. And then I was there 3 years before I came here.
And now you're at Channel 10, which anytime I've had a Channel 10 personality on, especially like someone from the newer cast, you know, if you will, I wonder what it's like to have a brand, to have that legacy and the expectations of being the number one market and how that impacts the way that you perform. It shouldn't. The venue shouldn't impact the way that you perform. In theory, if you're swinging the bat, if it's the final out of the World Series or playing in the backyard, whatever, it should be the same. But it definitely does impact things, right? It
does. No, it certainly does. I mean, working for a legacy station like WJAR is amazing, and it's a great opportunity. For me personally, it's almost the pressure of being in Rhode Island in general because my family and friends, I always say I would be more nervous here than I would have been if I got sent even to a market higher than this, just because I know, to me, my family and my friends are the most important. So what they think of me and my work is obviously going to make me a little nervous.
Definitely.
So,
I totally 100% agree with that. It's a whole nother level.
It really is.
Of intensity.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was nice to be backed up, I would say, by such great journalists at Channel 10 and such great support and a legacy station. Like people, we're very lucky in the sense that we can bend a lot of ears that other people may not be able to because they hear Channel 10 and they know that we've built trust for so long. So it really helps our brands personally as well.
What's your favorite story that you did kind of up to this point of the Studio 10 moment in time here?
So tough. I get asked that, and I always say, this is probably not the answer you want to hear, but I always say that anything that helps people. So I am a unique journalist in the sense of I got into journalism because I want to make a difference. Obviously, there's always going to be that general news like shootings and fires and things like that. But I even say, like, if you can make someone smile on their worst day, then you did something beneficial. Or if you, like Studio 10, we have a lot of like charities on. I'm a big advocate for Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I love to share their stories. Barbara, who's our health check reporter, she just did a really awesome story of follow-up 5 years later of a little boy. He's not little anymore, he's 16, but he's finally 5 years cancer-free.
I saw that. Yeah. Barbara Moore Silva.
Yeah, that was a great story, and I got to meet them. And because I do so much with LLS, like it really just hit me. But those are the stories that I like, that we make a difference.
Yeah, I can see that. That the intent. There's some people like that probably feed off the adrenaline of popping out of the bushes. You know what I mean?
No, they do.
Parker Gavigan comes in, maybe he's got the visor on,
which is great. And they're all, and Brian Crandall just did an incredible interview yesterday, really demonstrating journalism, when it comes to everything that's happening with the mayor in Fall River right now. And he is an outstanding journalist. And I think that every journalist has their niche, if you will. Everybody has that one thing that they're really good at. I think my good thing is connecting with people. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I benefit the most. Yeah,
that's critical to any media outlet. But I feel like with 10, that's always been there. There's always been a balance to that, at least back to my childhood, probably yours as well.
Yeah.
Mario, boom, then you go to a hard, having a Mario covering a hard news story brings you into that in a way that's comforting back in the day.
It really does, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because I meet people all the time that have met Mario, and who doesn't love Mario? He's one of my favorite people at the station. But they'll say, the first thing that pops into my mind is I met a woman who had a family member drown, terribly sad, and Mario covered the story. And she said she'll never forget how nice Mario was. And he came into their home and he sat there and he just listened to them talk. And sometimes you don't realize when you meet people on some of the worst days of their lives, just listening, not sticking a camera in their face, which I get, that's part of the job. But sometimes they just want to talk.
Right. Exactly.
It makes a difference.
It's a commitment to the actual story as well.
Yes.
To hear it out and go all the way on that, and not just pop in, get whatever sort of material you need for content you need for your package, and then get out of it. I mean, that's a different approach as well. I feel like to last to 10, you can't really be a fly-by-night journalist.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, you connect, because we're local news, you have to remember that we rely on the viewers to watch us. Our connections with the viewer is what keeps us going. So those people that remember those stories, I was having an awful day, and then Mario Hilario came into my living room, and really just, was comforting. Those are the monumental differences between somebody that just comes in and sticks a microphone in your face versus somebody that cares about you as a human and cares about you as a community member.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that, gets lost sometimes, is that local news, and at the end of the day, it's about it's essentially it ought to be a mirror for the community.
Yes.
In the way that art is, in the way that whatever other chance for evaluation, academia, those should all serve as mirrors for the community. It should be a two-way conversation.
Yeah,
the breakdown really happens there at that level. You know what I mean? When it's not necessarily, there are overlords on, this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
there is that element, whatever. But, and that's huge. Don't discount that. But at the same time, when people, especially now with the whole media sucks thing.
Yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough. And I've always had a passion for local news. I think there are a lot of people that they get into local news because they just want to get up there and they want to go national. And that is wonderful. That is their goal. That is their dream. I feel as if I am in the minority when I had always said I wanted to do local news at home, because this is what I care about.
Yeah.
I care about my home. I care about getting these stories out there, and I care about what happens to the people in this community. Not to say that I didn't care about the other places that I lived, because I did grow to love those places, but home is home.
Yeah, I hear you there, And there's something magical about this place as well, that all of the regionalism, this is a theme that we've explored constantly on this podcast, where, I constantly rant about if you go up to the northwest part of the state and down to South County, and even though it's a 46-minute commute,
the long drive,
vastly different worlds, in a lot of ways, different
We have a little bit of
infrastructure.
everything. Yeah, we really do. We're really, really lucky where some people don't have that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Down south, we get all four seasons. You know what I mean? We have a little bit of country, a little bit of beach, a little bit of city. So I think we are extremely, extremely blessed. And there's a lot of people that have never left this area, so they don't understand how really lucky we are. And I'm also very thankful for the appreciation that I've grown and built for this area because I have left for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. That to say that I have friends who haven't left the area. Most of the people who are moving along that are my friends have kept moving along career-wise, life-wise. If you become stagnant here, that's the especially dangerous.
Yes,
in my mind,
which
anyway.
is with any small area. It could be a small town, a small state, and anything like that.
Right. Let's talk about Studio 10.
Yes.
New program. Nice little tease this summer. All of a sudden, bingo, I get an Instagram follow, Studio 10. I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. I wonder what this will be. First I'm thinking like, oh, they're taking on the road show. Look out. And then I'm thinking, all right, I know this is something, maybe that's true as well, but you're going in on a very specific angle that's very modern. I really enjoy your promos. It's very targeted, very specific. I like the feel of the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what is it all about? Where's it going? You got Ben DeCastro on there too, by the way, friend of Bartholomewtown, if there ever was one.
I love Ben. He's great. I think that something like Studio 10 at WJAR is vastly overdue. That community, that extra community thing that, you only have 30 minutes in a newscast, and we can't fit everything in. So it's nice that you have that outlet where I just met with a group today, a charity group, and they wanted to come on, and it's for foster care out of Newport. And I was like, that's a great segment. We can sit and we can talk about that and what makes a good foster family, and a lot of people who don't know that they can even do that. And you have 3 to 4 minutes to let that breathe, which doesn't sound like a lot, but TV time, radio time, that is a lot of time.
Ton, yeah.
Whereas, our stories on the 6 o'clock news, you get a minute and 15 seconds to put that together. So you don't really have the time to go into more of the smaller community things that honestly people love. People love to hear, oh my gosh, my neighbor was on the news, or my neighbor was on Studio 10 because they were talking about their new fundraiser or this or that or whatever. People love that stuff. So I think that this just gives the station an extra layer to the community, and it gives us more time and ways to connect with them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really excited about it. Me and Megan are both elated.
Yeah, no, I can tell it's a huge career moment, and personal moment, obviously.
For sure.
It's really cool. Yeah, I've been fascinated by, and we've got the typical activities here in Elmwood, and it's not necessarily fire or police activity in Elmwood. I've discovered it's just they use our road as a route.
Yes, I was going to say this is this is a travel route.
So for a lot of listeners probably are like, what is going on over there? It is loud sometimes, and I gave up on soundproofing and all that. We're not.
I get that. That's all right. It happens.
Yeah. So anyway, but as far as the production of the show and everything from the color scheme and the feel of the kitchen, all that, how much of a say, or how much are you and Megan sort of behind that, or who else is kind of collaboratively building this project? Yeah,
so I can't take much credit for the setup, to be honest. Mm-hmm. A lot of that was Megan, along with the Rhode Island Center for Design, Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses. We had a lot of people that came in and helped and said, okay, this is a good color, this pops, this plant should go here, this is what you need here, this is the type of tile you need in the kitchen. And it makes such a difference because, and you mentioned it before, I mean, yeah, of course we get like the jokes about the road show and things like that, but I don't know. I mean, my intent is never to, I know Will and Michaela and Brendan, they're all wonderful people. And when you're in local news, I think you have to realize that, like, everyone's going to get a slice of the pie. Everybody, I'm going to interview someone that Will's probably going to interview next week. It's just how it is. It's Rhode Island. There's only so many people here. So,
and that's a great thing. I love that tour. Like, I love it sometimes. I have someone come on here that was just like, literally, if it's a Thursday, they may have just been with Ian and Scott at Publix Radio.
You never know.
And or vice versa. And that's an interesting day for that subject. You know, now they're going on this media tour, and you get a different type of presentation than you'd get if it was a one-off. So
absolutely,
it definitely improves the overall product, I think, to have multiple voices.
I agree, and I like the fact that we wanted it, and I think we achieved it. We have a unique look. I don't want anybody to look at our show and say they're trying to be the road show, because we're not. We're just trying to connect with a different audience with our station. You know what I mean? I think that every station has their individuals. And of course, Megan and I are much different people than the hosts from that show. And I hope that people can, get something from each of us, and we air at different times.
That's
which
the
is
other
helpful.
critical. You're not going head to head.
No,
that
it's
would
not the
be
same.
a little bit more
it's
aggressive.
Not like the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Where, exactly. So I know my grandmother watches the Road Show in the morning, and I know my grandmother watches Studio 10.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's the
what
idea.
I mean?
That's the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for us, it was just to give a new brand to Channel 10 and to show them, listen, we're diving deeper into the community. We want to interview your neighbor. We want to hear about that charity. We want to hear about that fundraiser, and let's do it.
That's fascinating. And you must be already like booking like crazy. A friend of mine, a friend of the program's actually, John Ferrone, was on there.
Yeah, he's
great.
Great voice.
Great
Amazing.
voice. He's got a fantastic vinyl record that he put out last year.
Really?
That is just, it's outstanding.
Good
so
for him.
It's,
for
really
the Folk
good
Fest,
stuff.
right? That's what he was on for?
He was on, I don't know what his appearance was timed with, but he should be playing the Newport Folk Festival. There's no anyone out there listening. He's one of those artists, no question. I mean,
awesome.
I mean, I shouldn't say should, but he you would not think twice about it if you saw him playing the Folk Festival. You wouldn't go, oh, that guy got some in because he's from Rhode Island.
That's
Put it
great.
That way. Yeah,
that's great.
But I appreciate that too, having music on. I mean, other people in the market who I'll leave nameless have attempted to do a similar, kind of low budget version of that, where you bring a guy on to play a song and interview. But now to have it at that where you can make it a thing that's lasting, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and we wanted to do that where we have different areas of the set. We have a couch set. We have an actual entertainment section. So we call it the entertainment set. So that is where we have. Today we actually have improv artists from the Improv Festival in Providence this weekend. Nice. We had them come on and we had them do an example. We had King Richard's Fair on to talk about, to do a little skit for us and show us some of the new things that they have this fall. So we wanted that area. We also have a second interview set that has 2 chairs and it's more intimate if you're going one-on-one with somebody or something like that. So I think that's just another layer that we wanted, something for everyone.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's like bringing back like memories of like
Thank you.
Hometown Bozo the Clown productions or whatever like that. Or I've been trying to find, because it was recorded, it was aired live. There's no tapes of Salty Shack. Thinking about just like hyper local television. Like that is killer.
People need that nowadays. I think with so much tension, without naming specifics, worldwide, really. It is so nice to turn on your television and hear something positive that's happening in your community. And I really hope that lifts people up and it gives them the positivity that they need to, go on their day and be like, okay, you know what? We are doing something right. You might not agree with your neighbor. You might not agree with your colleague or whatnot. But like at the end of the day, like most of us are just out there trying to do good things.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really important to have all forms of art and media, and I would say what you're doing broadly is art, essentially.
Yes.
I mean, I think news, when done accurately, is art as well.
Thank you.
It serves in that broad context, but it is so important to again be that mirror, and for people to not feel like we live in this. I mean, there are horrible things that happen every day, everywhere.
Of
but
course.
It's important to keep it in perspective. Otherwise, boy, what are we doing here? It's much worse to keep your head down if you can avoid that. If you're not like kind of really sucked into that moment and be able to pick other people up. So.
I agree. And that's what we want to do. You got to be informed, obviously, but I love the fact that people can Facebook message me or message me on Instagram or something like that. And they're like, hey, my friend is doing this, blah, blah, blah. They'd be great for your Studio 10 show. Great. Mm-hmm. And then we are very fortunate. We have a wonderful producer, Megan Kayada, who without we would be nowhere, because she really wrangles everything together and puts it together and makes the show. I was going to say, people don't understand the behind the scenes, like Megan does so much. She comes in at 9 every day. She stays late. She works her butt off. And she literally, like, I'll come in the morning, my scripts will be on my desk. Or she'll text us at 7 o'clock at night, be like, hey, I just did this. Like, she is so invested into making this show her baby. It's just great. When you have such passion behind that, I think it is just going to make the show shine even brighter. Yeah,
I got the spook a little bit. When I filled in a couple of times for Dan York and his producer, Alex Weldon. I told my wife, I was like, holy God, I try to prepare, and I think I prepare okay for podcast interviews. I think I do an all right job. I don't ever feel like I've never come in and be like, oh my God, what am I talking about?
What am I talking about? Yeah.
But totally a great producer in the because I've worked with great producers in music as a musician. I understand that push and pull and that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That the realities of it. It's a true team effort. It's like quarterback to wide receiver. It's very similar. But a real great modern contemporary producer. That is a nutty experience to have that and that kind of preparation. So,
I agree.
It's something that people don't see or think about probably when they're consuming audio or video news or any kind of production. But it really is nuts, the adrenaline that's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and the pressure that they face. I mean, you can say, yeah, we face pressure on air, but I couldn't do their job.
Last question on Studio 10.
Sure.
Did you set up the set on where the original 10 set used to be on the other side?
In the building. Yep. So
of
if you've
the
been
HD studio.
Yep. So if you've been in our building, we had demolished the old studio and we had built a brand new one within the last 5-10 years, and we just had this big empty space. So just look at it as a new opportunity to do something else. You know what I mean? And they really took that and they went with it. In our very first episode, we'll call it our pilot episode, if you will, after Labor Day, we were able to have the people on Renown Center Design. We had Cardi's on. We had the people that helped us make the studio what it is.
Yeah. A lot of stardust on there, as you know.
Yep.
On that piece of real estate right there. The desk's at Rick, right?
That I don't know. That is a good question. I wouldn't be surprised. We're actually doing some movement in the newsroom right now because we're getting some new people and we're trying to fit more people. And it's tough. You only have so many desks, and then when you need more people, you just got to work with what you got. But.
Right. Well, yeah, just fascinating. That's a magical window.
Yeah.
From eyeballs to TV screen into that Channel 10, especially 90s with that like kind of almost like public transit system style carpeting backdrop.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say
stuff.
that was definitely interesting. I was just saying that to my boss yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, remember when we had like the newsroom in the background? So now obviously if you've seen, it's not like that. But
bright.
Yeah, it's much brighter. There's a lot of benefits to it. So
last question or last area, I suppose. I really don't like getting into like identity issues or anything like that in this format, unless something specific needs to be addressed. But there's no question about it. It's important to talk about, I think, being a woman in any kind of performance space in terms of dealing with people in the community, in terms of dealing with other people inside the industry.
Yes. It can be tough.
It's tough. I know there are specific problems, and you cannot possibly say that it's an equal playing field on a certain level. It certainly is on a performative level, on a talent level, on a news level. But there's something else that it's the same in music. It's the same in art. It's getting better. At least these are from my purview. It's it's the same in other things to do, soccer and basketball refereeing. I mean, I see this everywhere. So it's not. But I just know anecdotally and through friends that there's a challenge you face and you've overcome it. But how's that been?
I mean, it's definitely something to think about, and I actually always say this to interns or anybody that's looking to get into the business. I love all my interns, but I'll say to my interns who are young women, you're gonna have to face sexual comments that you're not going to want online. You're going to deal with critiques on your body. You're going to deal with critiques on your makeup and your hair and things that, if somebody's watching a man give a television report, I would say 90% sure that they're not going to get an email about the color of their suit. There are a lot of times where I get messages that I'm like, what are these people thinking? Like, what?
I'm sure.
And it blows my mind. And you know what? I am a fiery girl. I'm Portuguese and I'm Italian, so I got a mouth, and it's hard for me sometimes to tame it. And sometimes I do just say to people, like, just think before you speak. Like, there's somebody on the other side of that comment. And I think a lot of times people don't even realize that I see that. But it's like, there was it in Australia? There was a news anchor that wore the same suit every day and just changed his tie, and no one noticed. But if I wore this dress like next week, I'll get an email on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost the smaller things that sometimes distract from your work. Some people will pick those out before they actually focus on how your reporting was or how your show was. So I think that definitely plays a part. Even more so for minority women in this business. They have a whole nother layer, especially, sadly enough, depending on where they are. My very first station that I worked for was in a very small country, predominantly white town, where a lot of people didn't know what my ethnicity was. And it's just something that I never, ever thought I would deal with things like that in 2019.
But you definitely do.
But you do.
Yeah, right.
But you do. So I think that there's so many layers, obviously, but it reflects the country too, I really say. It really does reflect the country. And when you're in the public eye, you're going to get scrutinized for everything, and you have to have a thick skin. There are going to be some people that don't like the way you look or like the way you sound, or, think that you should be better at this or you should be doing more of this. Or, I actually had somebody come at me online the other day saying that I didn't do enough for like women's issues. And I was like, hello, knock, knock. Like, what?
Just being on Channel 10 doing what you're doing is doing a lot for women's
I do
issues.
A lot. My friends and I, we just held a fundraiser for the Girls Leadership Collaborative, actually, in Providence. But people are going to say whatever. I think the hardest thing is you got to get out of bed in the morning and know that they are not determining your worth.
Right.
You have to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm good. Like, you just got to keep going. You got to keep pushing through, and you'll get there. I mean, not to say that men do not take criticism, because certainly they do. I have seen men in broadcasting that have definitely gotten criticism before. But it's also sad to say that women will attack women on TV more, and that is me and some of my best friends have a quote. We always say, like, babes supporting babes. We think it's so important, like, that women should be supporting each other more. We get enough crap, you know? So focus on, next time you see somebody, you know what I mean? Like, focus on their work versus what they're wearing or how they look.
Yeah, like when I was looking up, I don't even remember what I was looking. I was trying to search something about you, and I typed your name in, and on Google it gives you like the suggested results. Yeah. The first suggested result is Lindsay Iadeluca married.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big question. No, shocking. No, I am not married right now. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of I literally got someone this morning. I was doing a story. I shared a story on it was a body shaming story out of Alaska for this 17-year-old swimmer, this teenage girl. And somebody tweets at me and was like, I'd like to see Lindsay Iadeluca in a bathing suit. I was like, okay, this just got weird. Why do you have to take it there? Why can't?
What are you doing?
The internet trolls. That's what I call them. The troll. And it's funny because I try to make a joke out of it. You know what I mean? I'm like, some days the trolls are out harder than others. But yeah, exactly. Things like that.
Yeah.
And
these people are out there. There's sick people out there. That day that guy drove that truck into the protesters in Central Falls, I was hosting on WPRO the day after.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there were people calling up that were defending this guy driving into the crowd of people. I mean, you got to be out of here. You got to be nuts. That guy should have been arrested on the spot for sure.
There's a lot of different opinions out there all the time. And you just got to remember when you're in the public eye that you agree to that.
Right.
At the end of the day, I can sit there and have a bad day and complain about it to my best friend or my mom or something like that. But unfortunately, that's what you sign up for, which is why I say it's really important to have a thick skin.
No question about it. Well, you're doing amazing work around here. You definitely are buzzworthy, as they'd say.
Thank you.
rock star here, moving along. And I'm really excited about Studio 10. I mean, it's just such a cool platform.
Me too, yeah. Every day, weekdays at 12:30, got to give myself a plug.
Absolutely. So for those who don't have television, what's the best way to consume the content?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of people ask about that. So you can stream it right on turnto10.com.
Live?
Yep, you can watch it live. Only live that I know of right now, but we're pretty good at reposting all of our segments.
Yep.
So I highly suggest that you follow our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and you can get a lot of our segments if you miss them on there too.
Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
As always, thanks for tuning in to the Bartholomewtown Podcast. Remember, there's over 120 episodes of Bartholomewtown waiting there for you on bartholomewtown.com, ripodcast.com, or wherever you like to get your pods. Until next time, I'm Bill Bartholomew. We'll talk soon.
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,100 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.